Hello, everyone. This is George Diaz, president and founder of Larry Jacob Internet Marketing, and I'm bringing you another episode of Transforming Small Business Thinking. Today, my guest is Justin Ferriman, Mr. LearnDash himself. How are you, Justin?
I'm great, George. Thanks so much for having me.
No, and thank you for joining us. So we are, everybody knows we're a LearnDash Membarium team. We do a lot of membership sites in the Infusionsoft space, and matter of fact, I was joking with Justin. A lot of people say, "Oh, I need a Membarium LearnDash site," and they almost like blend them together like they're one and the same, and they really are extremely well integrated. The reason I asked Justin to come along is because they released version 3.0 of their solution back June 19th, if I can't remember exactly.
A little bit before, May 28th.
May 28th, okay. And so I was reading up in June, probably June 19th is when the release of this blog post. And I'm going, wow, there's a lot of new stuff. I had no major complaints about LearnDash. I mean, it was working just fine, but you guys made a major rev, and I figured we could talk about that, what led up to that, and, a lot of the research and learning science behind it.
I'd be happy to. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot into this release, both on the front end and the back end, in terms of just the layout of our menu and the settings pages. I mean, we completely redid it. A lot of that based on customer feedback, trying to always improve the user experience. But we did throw in a couple new features around the e-learning side and the e-learning space, which is what I come from, that are leveraging some of the latest trends. And so the biggest one of that is focus mode, or what we're calling the LearnDash focus mode. And
right.
That's one of the well-received updates that we did, because it's changing essentially how people are experiencing, and by people, I mean the learners, are experiencing the course content as they're going through it online.
Right. So tell us exactly what, and not only what is it, but then what led up to that? Because I know you guys had like an outside research firm helping you with stuff. And, why is it that this LearnDash release is the right next step for you guys?
Wow, that's a simple question with a not so simple answer, but I'll try my best not to go off on too many tangents. For years, and with the 2.0, you were saying that you never had any complaints, and thank you for that. But with 2.0, there's a lot of iteration. So we're just kind of iterating a little bit here, a little bit there. We'd add features, but we didn't want to. That's always a slippery slope, right? You don't want to pack something full of features that then you have feature rot, and you're kind of stuck with this bloated piece of software. But at this time, we've been doing 2.0 for a while, and we knew that we needed to do something big. And by big, I mean both on the front end and back end of the software that was based on feedback we were receiving, but also in the e-learning trends that had been shifting and changing in big ways too. So you're right. We brought in two firms actually to assist with this. One, 3.7 Designs. They did a lot of the design work and the design of focus mode. And then we also had 10up, which did a lot of user interviews and talking with our customers about what they liked about LearnDash, what they didn't like about LearnDash, and kind of incorporated that into the delivery of both the back end and the front end. The e-learning space, that was something we looked at in 3.7. With their help, we looked at what was out there with learning management systems today. So, and not just within WordPress, right? This is some of the big ones like Blackboard,
Sure.
Canvas, some of the bigger traditional LMSs, but then also the more consumer ones like Teachable, Thinkific, and I guess, Kajabi is kind of a membership platform, but just seeing what other platforms were doing.
Yeah, Litmos might be another one of those, right?
I'm sorry?
Litmos might be another one.
Yes. Yeah, I usually do mention them. They're actually a really good offering. And we did look at them. We looked at Coursera, which is a massive open online course service solution that or I don't know what you would call it, product. And so we looked at all these ways that people were delivering courses, and we looked at our competitors in the WordPress space, and there were certainly things that everybody does pretty well, some little things here or there, but then also there was stuff that was left a lot to be desired in terms of the learner experience, and the shift of the learner mindset in recent years, when it comes to online learning specifically, you're competing so much for their attention, more so than ever before. And there was a time when online courses were intriguing enough in themselves because they were online and it seemed something new and fresh. People have seen it now. In fact, taking an online course is pretty, run of the mill. Everybody does it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've written a lot of blogs where I use the term the distracted learner, where the guy's actually learning something and they're sitting there on their phone of all places, and they might be in their car waiting in line, whoever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I think some of that is, some of that can't be prevented. I think it's just part of the culture. But one of the things that has come about in recent years with online learning is that somebody goes to, like, say, a website. We'll stay with WordPress. Somebody goes to a website, they go into the course, and the course kind of looks like the website. I mean, they may have some really great content, but more or less they're still on the web page. You still have the navigation at the top. And they never switch their mind. Their mind never changes to I am learning. It's still I am browsing. So when you're on a website, you're browsing a website, going through pages and whatnot. And if you jump into a course and everything looks the same and there's nothing there to kind of trigger your mind to say, oh, now I'm in something different, then you're not going to receive that content the way that the course creator probably intended. You're going to be browsing the content. You're not going to be learning the content. And so that is what we took with our focus mode, that idea in mind. How can we take somebody from, browsing the website or looking at a course page, that when it's time to take the content, they click on a lesson, that it's enough of a shift, but without being distracting, that gets their mind into a learner mode or lets them know this is different.
Yeah. And I mean, because I've experimented with it, and, for those of you who haven't seen it, what it does is it's almost like the content pushes forward and then the navigation is removed. Yeah.
So what we're doing in focus mode, which I should probably point out is an optional setting. I know
you basically set it. So we have a lot of 2.0 people that we upgraded, and, the formatting changes a little bit. Nothing changes drastically, but when you turn that option on, which, we've avoided doing unless people are like they're revving, because it does. I mean, it changes it not significantly, but enough where it's like, hey, what happened? Something changed.
Yeah. And you want to make sure people are ready for that. But so when focus mode is on, it just takes that learner from like that web page or that course description where they can see the outline of the course. And you described it pretty well, where the content kind of gets pushed forward. We remove, for example, the navigation at the top of the, of a website, the homepage, about, contact, all that stuff. We remove that because it's not needed when somebody's taking a course online. So you can replace that. We replaced it with branding. So like the logo, somebody could put their own logo up there. Right. There's a progress bar and the mark complete button at the top. And then a custom menu. If you wanted a custom learning menu that you could maybe have a link to a forum or a link to some resources or whatever in that. So
learning related stuff as opposed to, let me go to my accounts page to see.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a nested little menu. Actually, it's a profile that you kind of hover over, then it appears, and then you can, so it's not right in your face. And the idea is just to have simple visuals in place. The branding is nice because you can customize the colors and put your brand and your own flavor on it. But then to have the course progress bar there and a mark complete. And really that's it at the top. Then there's the course content. Below the course content is another mark complete. And then on the left side, we have the navigation of the course, which can be collapsed or expanded.
No, which is only the course navigation as opposed to the stuff at the top that it really is not relevant to the learning.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. It's the course navigation, which shows where they are, their progress. And that can even be, and this is something that, we don't talk about it much because it's not something that comes up or questions that are asked, but that can even be made more efficient by the course creator. So let's say you had 50 lessons. You can actually set up, we have pagination there, so you can set up so it's only 10 lessons at a time are appearing instead of all 50. And so, a learner goes in, oh my gosh, look at all these lessons I got to take. So, there's all these little details that we're trying to put in there and a lot of thought behind those details to really make the content pop and keep learners engaged and shift their mind from that browsing to learning.
So next week we're about to launch a new one. And now that I'm thinking about this, it's kind of like, I'm at the point where I have team members that are doing this. I may actually jump into this one and actually experiment with that now that you're pointing out these things. Because, these are things we can also kind of blog about and help people learn about it.
Yeah.
It's not even obvious that those features are there because I didn't know about that one, for example.
Yeah, the pagination.
Cool. Okay, so we have the focus mode. What are the other things that you guys have tossed in there?
So besides focus mode, on the other one this is more on I'm going to stay on the front end. I'm not going to shift to the back end yet. Another thing that's been really well received is, and there's probably the number one support request or support ticket that we got for a number of years, was about logging in and registering for a course.
So or the enrollment process.
Yeah, the enrollment process. And there's many ways that can be done with WordPress. Like if you have Membarium LearnDash, then that has a different path than something else.
Right.
But what could be the same, or what can be the same across all those, is the login process. So now we created a really beautiful login modal that if you go to a course page and you click login, it comes up on the screen. You can brand it with your colors and your logo right there. And what's nice about this, and if anybody watching is familiar with WordPress, it's that the registration and login forms in WordPress are pretty generic, not very customizable, not a lot of flexibility there. Seems a little, somebody will be on your page and then they're suddenly taken to this weird login form. It just doesn't flow necessarily. And this feature that we put in, you click log in, you're still on the page, just comes up, hey, log on, go ahead and log in. If you want them to register, they can do that too. We're really pleased with that. And that was, people are really excited. And actually one way that we measure success by that one is we don't really have any other tickets anymore about logging in and registering. So that was kind of one that was close to my heart, that we really enjoyed.
Yeah. And see, for us we don't deal with too many LearnDash users who aren't also Membarium and Infusionsoft users. Mm-hmm. It's almost like that's kind of removed for us, but
True.
We are running into more and more people who just want the learning management. And since LearnDash does have a lot of these features that, in our world are relegated over to Membarium and Infusionsoft, those are options that I'm sure are handy for a lot of folks.
Oh yeah, definitely. And one thing that's nice about both focus mode and this login feature and register feature is we really wanted to lessen the learning curve for the folks that are coming to LearnDash just because they've heard about LearnDash. They may not be overly familiar with WordPress. Maybe they've used it here or there, but they don't know it. They're not like yourself and your team that kind of know it in and want to have it pay monthly to have somebody host that material. They want to own the content. So these two features themselves made it so with focus mode, with the content, and it takes over the screen like that, they don't have to configure sidebars in WordPress, and they don't have to, figure out what widgets they're going to put where. I mean, it's just, it's kind of like you check a box and your content looks great. So that was another goal with that.
Yeah, I do like the new look is simpler. And it doesn't seem as, I don't know if rigid is the right word. Because if there was anything I didn't like about LearnDash is that it imposed a format. Now our guys could go and do some CSS work and fix it and whatever, but like who wants to do any more work than you have to, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. And, but that was something that you're right. We made it simpler. We kind of removed that clutter. There are situations where it does make sense to get a little bit more advanced and customize the page like the old way. And people still do. But I think focus mode is not only about the way it looks, but also about the experience for the learner. And quite frankly, it's impressive and it looks good for the business or the individual offering the course because it makes them look really professional and polished.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You're talking about the functionality of it for learning. We have a lot of people that come to us and they're asking for a lot of eye candy, and we're more than happy to do it. But when in my opinion, when you're in a learning environment, it's the content that ought to shine, not the framework. You go to the big digital marketers, the people that do a lot of this kind of stuff. Nobody's nobody comes up and says, oh, the environment is so impressive. It's kind of like, hey, I really like lesson 5. That was so, and it's almost like you have to humble yourself and say, hey, we're background stuff that makes the foreground stuff look good, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Actually, I just saw a similar analogy to that. I just was watching this little documentary about somebody, he created the background and the scenes, the sets for Forrest Gump, the movie. And he kind of broke down all these details that they put into it to make it authentic, like when they're in Vietnam, like all super authentic. But you never noticed it, right? But that's how you know they were doing their job. You know, is you didn't notice it because you're focused on the story. It's the same thing. You don't want to see the environment unless like you happen to look and just say, oh, it's kind of nice, but really it's the content. Those are the main actors.
Cool. Now so you were talking about the back end stuff. So what back end stuff that we may not notice? I guess these are things that help the administrator or the course builder, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we did actually quite a bit. We, one thing that was painstaking, but it's helping from a support standpoint, and it helps just anybody that is getting started with LearnDash or even using it now, is we went through every single setting and looked at what it was called and what the help text was and updated it and reordered them so they were logically grouped. Because as I mentioned earlier with 2.0 and previously too, and this goes for anybody making software, you start adding in this feature and you kind of put this feature there and you're putting it in a logical spot, so you think, but after a while you have all this functionality that didn't exist, a few years ago. And you're like, we need to take a step back and reorder this and put these in more logical groupings. So we did that. That has been really nice. And we put help text on every single thing that explains it. So that one, most people won't notice, but that's one of those things that I'm happy we got done. But the two big things in the back end are the course builder and the quiz builder. We rewrote those entirely. And that was a big job of 10up. They came in and rebuilt those. And for anybody that likes coding and all that, they rebuilt them in React. And so it was new for us because we didn't have any React pieces of coding in our software before. But ultimately, it just creates this very smooth app-like experience when you're building out your course. But, and this is important, is especially important for us, you don't feel like you're not in WordPress anymore. And being a WordPress, we struggled with this a little bit. It was an internal debate. We say, okay, when someone creates a course, do we take over the whole screen and then now they're creating the course and we control that whole environment? Which there's certainly an argument to be made for that way forward. Or do we do it within the WordPress dashboard? And we opted for the latter, but we did it in a way that you almost forget that you're in the WordPress dashboard, which is really cool. For example, you'll still have the left navigation with all your little menu items there, and you'll know that you're still in WordPress. But on the right side, we kind of leverage the Gutenberg, the new editor, WordPress 5.0 and beyond. That feel, the open space, the white space.
And the fact that it kind of disappears, right?
Well, I'm sorry?
You mean like that it disappears, that function too? The
Gutenberg editor? Or
I don't know if it's the Guggen, but like the right sidebar seems to.
Oh no, that sidebar. No, that one's still there. So okay. that one will still be there. And then, but on the right hand side, we kind of take over that whole space for the editor, which is drag and drop, and you do everything natively. Whether you're creating in the course, whether you're creating lessons, if you're in a quiz, you can create your questions right within this builder. And that was important for us to stay true to WordPress because it felt like to hijack the whole admin experience didn't feel so true to the space that that we feel is important. And I know, like, for example, if developers choose LearnDash, then if it strays too far from the what is WordPress, and that's not good. So the two builders, that was a massive investment for us, and 10up did a ton of work there. We did a ton of testing, and it makes creating a course dead simple. It just works. And we actually studied builders that were out there. I mean, it's not like we just came up with this. We studied what builders are out there and what was good and what could be better. We have, in my opinion, a very easy to use builder that is the most advanced. Like the most. builder.
So this removed it, because I know one of the things about the 2.0 LearnDash is you were clicking and then clicking in and then clicking in. So it seems like it's all more in one place, especially the quiz builder. It seemed to be.
Yes. It is less layers. As you were saying, you don't have to click so deep because you can do things right there. So yeah, you're right.
So you mentioned investment. So the pricing hasn't changed. It's still the $159 a year, right?
Yes. Yeah. LearnDash. Yep.
Yeah. Which I thought, first of all, I think your price is too low. That's just me.
It's funny you say that because, and other people have echoed this, but I literally just read an article today that was writing about LearnDash and kind of 3.0 and stuff like that. And one of the comments was like, one of the cons, it was like a little pricey. So
really?
It's funny how, it's a big world out there.
For the year.
I know. It's a battle. But, is with any business, like prices go up, and we've raised our prices. I think when LearnDash first came out, it was $69.
Right. No.
Like,
and then I think there was a $129 special, and then.
Yeah. So it's gone up over the years, and it will probably, if I were to predict, it's probably going to keep going up.
But the value is there, and again, it's funny. You talk to some people, it's like, no, it's so expensive. Things are so expensive. Well, it's kind of like, well, what's the alternative? Have you built a course without a LearnDash like thing? Because that's even more work.
Yeah, and and there's so many ways and you can approach that, but one way is you're paying for something that's proven. We didn't start last year. We've been here since we essentially created the space. So we've been doing this for a long time, and some big companies, universities, big names have used us. We've already encountered those lower level problems that a lot of other providers would encounter, and we've made it through it. And now it's such a stable piece of software. So if that's one way to look at it, if you're paying, maybe you don't need all these updates or the support, whatever, $159 for something that is just absolutely proven.
Because I've taught at the university level, and there tends to be the academia perspective, which frankly has not caught up to a lot of this. I'm not saying the people specifically, but definitely not the software. Because when you get like the SCORM, Captivate, Crowd, that doesn't have all these things, and it's kind of like, but we're not running a university here. We're running a training system that needs to be up and running fast, practical, and you guys have made it where you're not bogged down by a lot of that bloat, I want to say. Yeah, you're right. I think, and that's more of a credit, I think, to WordPress in general, the ethos of WordPress. In the world, the distracted learner who's learning in a different environment and not in what was traditional. You're right. And the industry, the higher education industry, it's a slow moving ship for sure. Yeah, and that's not your market necessarily. Yeah, you'd be surprised. We do have like universities that use us. Off the top of my head, like University of Washington, University of Michigan, University of Florida. It's not the whole university, right? It will be like it's like pockets, like a department. A little department here or there. Companies, a lot of times companies use us for like employee onboarding. So they want to create a training program. Actually, I think Cloudways, which is a host, of just speaking with them, they're going to be using us for their employee training. So that's smart, because for that kind of stuff, it really is good. Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, Justin, thank you so much for the update. I definitely think with 3.0 it was worth chatting. We chatted probably about a year and a half ago. So got caught up on this, and we keep moving along. No, well, I appreciate you having me on. It's always good to catch up and see what you're doing. And congrats again on the new work, and best of luck the rest of the year. Yeah, you too. Hey, thank you for joining us. Thank you.